its capacity. That is what experts are talking on that paper on page 6. Northwest gets over 81 billion CFA francs as share of state budget. Limbe 3 council area chiefs petition government over bad road abandoned projects in the Limbe 3 municipality of the southwest region. Stop press, it says former minister Jean-Baptiste Bokam dies. We move right up to Douala with Mutation. Mutation for today says the law scene. The paper report on the law scene as it went further to talk on money. It says money trample. You can find more on that set paper, or money scene. You can find more on that set paper for today after the announcement of the bar examination that was done by the Minister of Justice. Artificial intelligence, the paper report on William Elong without filter. You get to read that story on that said paper for today. From the Mutation of Thierry Diaga, we move right up to the next publication, Bonjour le Cameroun, for today talks on new fiscal measures that have been put in place by the government. Get to read that story on Bonjour le Cameroun for today. Technical and vocational education remains outstanding. That is what the Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Issa Chiruma Abakari, tells Cameroonian on Bonjour le Cameroun. We'll take you to the hot paper Quotidien Eco Santé for this day. Talks of honorary distinction. Emmanuel Macron gives this distinction to Professor Joseph Kamgo, who has been raised to the ranks of the Knights of Order of the French National Order. You can find more on that paper for today. Quality control, the paper report on Lanacom, who prioritizes some project when it comes to quality control in certain products, in most products in the country. Free, the paper says the group or the medical group partners for free medical attention. You can find that story on that set paper for today. Let's take you to Eco Martin for this morning. It says Cameroon, the kickstart of the 2024 budget that was launched yesterday in the town of Marwa in the far north region by the Minister of Finance Louis Paul Motaze. That is what the economic paper of Eco Martin tells us for this day. And the IMF project says Cameroon in the top 10 countries to benefit. You can find more that are actually indebted to the International Monetary Fund. And in that said paper, the paper talks on Douala. It says the medal of award ceremony that was done by Boisson to Cameroon to some outstanding workers of that brewery company in the city of Douala. We'll move away from that to talk on the custom sector with the Director General of Custom, Edwin Fongad Navoga. The paper reports on the objective of the Cameroon custom sector, which is to generate the sum of 1,080 billion CFA francs for 2024. That is the exclusive interview granted to that paper of Eco Martin by the Director General of Custom for Cameroon, Edwin Fongad Novaga. We'll move away from that custom sector to the next publication for today. La Voix du Consommateur for today says open letter to Paul Biya. If there is an increase, we will take to the streets. That is an open letter that was written to President Paul Biya by some Cameroonians. You get to read that open letter on page 3. Paco combatant, the paper report on Gando Piqué in Yamoussoukro after he engaged in his road trip to get to Ivory Coast on his failure to purchase tickets to fly to Cote d'Ivoire. Get to read that story on one of the supporters of the Indomitable Lions, Gando. We move away from that. We take you to visit Morocco. The paper says Falcao engages with the various actors on that. You can read that story on that said publication for today. Lusua Tribune Hebdo for this morning is interested in the energy and power sector. It says in the modernization of certain wishes of the president when it comes to the energy sector after his 31st of December State of the Nation address. You can find more on the Lompanga Dam on that paper of Lasra Tribune Hebdo. We move over to Pentecostal churches of Cameroon. It says the big assembly, the big general assembly that have been announced for 2024 by Pentecostal churches of Cameroon. You want to find that story on pages of Le Soir Tribune Hebdo for today. Away from that, let's take you to Ekoti Parliament for this morning. A report on the November session of Parliament in retrospect. Basic Education Minister Laurence Chetundingwa says teachers recruitment for 2024 is top priority. You can find more on what he said on the parliamentary paper Ekoti Parliament for this morning. From Ekoti Parliament, we take you to Grand Dialogue for today. Report on the obituary of Professor Monon Dana. Get to read that story on that said paper. Honorable Ali Bashir talks of a veritable example and model and mentor for many Cameroonians. You can find more on Grand Dialogue for today. From that paper of Grand Dialogue, viewers, we move over to the next paper for today. The next paper is Nouvelle Horizon for today. It talks of the Ministry of Youth and Physical Education. The paper talks of patriotism that is key to students of the Advanced School of Mass Communication in Yaoundé, known as ASMAC in English and ESTIC in French. Let's take you to the road sector in the country, how the Ministry of Public Works, headed by Emmanuel Ganon Jomisi, is realizing and embarking on key road priorities that was announced by President Paul Biya in recent times. The Ministry of Finance launches the 2024 state budget in the town of Marua as the Finance Minister Louis Paul Motaze says more emphasis will be taken on key projects in the country. Quotidien, we move over to Quotidien Le Témoin. Le Témoin daily newspaper for today talks of big cabal. It says the universal health coverage for all goods. That is what you can find on that said paper for today. The 2024 budget, it says the launching of effective operations as the Minister of Finance Hamma Moore yesterday in the town of Marwa as he launches the 2024 state budget in that part of the country. We take you to Yaoundé with Cameroon Tribune of Marie Claire Nana. A report on the Unity Palace. It says President Paul Biya receiving audience to her diplomats yesterday at the Etudi Palace of Yaoundé, as reported to us by Cameroon Tribune for today. Indomitable Lions solving Senegal's equation. What is that all about? Get to read more explanations on page 25 to page 29 on Cameroon Tribune for today. And that said, Cameroon Tribune, the paper talks on the big concerts that was showcased. Get to read that story on that said paper. Upcoming elections for 2025 general elections. It says effervescence within the political parties. You can find that story on page 6 to 7 on Cameroon Tribune for this day. We'll cross over to Le Reporter for today. It talks of the ranking of enterprises by CTRO. The paper report on the skillfulness of Valezan. You can find more on that said paper for today. At New Year wishes ceremony by the to the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense, Joseph Betty Asomo, prescribed discipline and accuracy in the defense sector. That was what he was talking to external and close collaborators of his Ministry of Defense. That is what you can find on that paper. We move over to Bafasam this time around with West Echo. West Echo for today talks of crisis and confusion in the chiefdom of Bangam. It says those who actually trample over high instructions get, you can be read the that story, and you have the likes of the minister Paul Atsanganji, some notables, our Funka Augustine minister, the governor of the West region, and some other persons who actually trample over the on high instruction of the head of state when it comes to the chiefdom of Bangam, as reported to us by the newspaper from Bafusam West Echo. And that's West Echo, the paper report on playoff of MTN Elite 2 championship. It talks of president of the Panther of Nde football club accuses of witchcraft, of practicing witchcraft. You can find more on that said paper for today. The advocate for this morning says 2025 presidential elections, Asong Michael Kuba declares candidacy. Boya Dausis Wahala, Bishop Bushu backtracks while Bibi backpedals. You can find that story on page 6 to 7 on the paper of Tabet Tayang Enobika for this morning. Facelifting the My 6 beach of Limbe, new proprietor McLean's lauded. And in that said paper, full motion resolution, Limbe City Council session in this edition of the paper of the advocates. La Meteo for this morning comes back to the killing of journalists and station manager of Amplitude FM, Martinez Zogo. He says, when will the process finally come to an end? That's what La Meteo is preoccupied for today. From La Meteo viewers, we cross over to Lagos in Nigeria with the Punch. The Punch for today says abduction epidemic in Nigeria. Anti-kidnapping protest holds in Abuja today as 10 suspects arrested. You can find more detail on page 2 on that paper for this morning. Many fear death as massive explosion rocks Ibadan town in the southwest of Nigeria. We crossed over to talk something else with the federal government of Nigeria, who put in 8 trillion naira from subsidy removal and forex reform. That is what Tinubu panel reports on that. Refinery, Dangote refinery investors gain 1 trillion naira. And in the said paper, the paper reports on the plunging of the naira. It says naira plunges to 1,300 naira per dollar as the parallel market report on the economic situation of or the fiscal situation of the naira in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. To the sports paper, that is Punch Sports Extra says gets the real Jose. You can find that story as fan charges the Nigerian Football Federation to appoint sack Roma manager Jose Mourinho for the position of Super Eagles of Nigeria's coach. And let's take you to the AFCON. The paper report on Song defend Onana snubs. You can find more on the unending saga and Wahala in the Indomitable Lions court in Cote d'Ivoire 2023. Ian Nacho trains with Super Eagles while Omeru predicts tough match with the Ivorians. And we crossed over to talk something else with the English Premier League. It says Liverpool to rival Extra for this morning. We take you to the next paper, La Voix du Entreprise for today. It reports on SIVEB 2024. It says the Innovation Act 2 that is rolling. You can find more on that paper. The exportation of banana to the global market, it says Cameroon banana have had an increase of 4.3% exports as for the year 2023, as the paper predicts that 2024 will be a better one with the increase of exports to export of banana to the global market. We move over to debt recovery. It says 5.3 billion CFA fund mobilized by CBC in 2022. And then for our show for today's reporting on the after the Guinea Cameroon match, it says 0 carries for the Indomitable Lions. You can find more on that set paper for today. Obituary, Jean-Baptiste Bocam is dead. You can find that story on page 3 on that paper for today. At the launch launching ceremony of the launching of the 2024 budget, it talks of integrity important as it was stipulated by the Minister of Finance Louis Paul Motaze yesterday in the town of Marwa. Journal Identité for today report on emergency reform in the trade sector as the Minister of Trade is being quoted to that. And we move over to public financing. The paper says CTD face the regular budget. You can find that story on that said paper for today. We move over to influences 2023, the note of conjecture. You can find that story detailedly on page 9 on that paper for today. Taking you next door to the Guardian Post of Christian Guy says at launch of state budget in Marwa, the Minister of Finance Louis Paul Motaze says government pursuing inclusive growth, competitiveness, tender from the Douala Port Authority, and to support microeconomic stability, long-term economic growth. The paper says UBA Bank plays key role in Nigeria's highest syndicated loan in international markets. Interview: Minister Amba Achar Rose unveils consumes 2023 balance sheet. Another CPDM MP dies. Get to read that sad one on the pages of the Guardian Post for this morning. From the Guardian Post, we move over to the last paper on our disposal for this morning. That is Echo du Parlement talks on the November session of Parliament for 2023 in retrospect. How the Minister of Basic Education, that is Laurence Shetundi Ngwawu, says the recruitment of teachers will be top priority in the year 2024, as reported to us by Echo du Parlement for this morning. With Echo du Parlement for this morning, good people and viewers of High Television, this is where we draw the curtains for today's edition. Actually, we just had a call from our reviewer who says he actually overslept himself out, and so he was unable to make